In June 2018, the United Nations General Assembly passed a resolution which had far-reaching consequences and implications to ensure UN reform on the ground in the UN development system. The reform is envisaged to make the United Nations system on the ground more fit for purpose to achieve the sustainable development goals in every country, including in Mongolia. The United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework, or the UNSDCF, is at the core and the heart of the reform, which enables planning and implementation together as a United Nations system, with all the agencies coming together with the leadership of the government and partnership of all other development partners and stakeholders to achieve the national priorities embedded in the Sustainable Development Goals for the country.
Closely aligned with Vision 2050, Mongolia's long-term development policy, the 2023 to 2027 United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework for Mongolia sets out the following vision, strategic priorities and outcomes.
By 2030, all people in Mongolia over their life course benefit from shared prosperity characterized by inclusive, resilient, and sustainable development, as well as healthy and safe environment, and thrive in a cohesive society based on rule of law and human rights.
By 2027, people in urban and rural areas, especially the most vulnerable and marginalized, equally realize their full human potential and benefit from inclusive, right-based, gender and shock-responsive, health and nutrition, education, social protection, WASH, and other services.
So as the UN country team in Mongolia, our aspiration is that by 2027, the Mongolian economy would be more diversified, innovative, productive, inclusive, green, and geographically balanced, enabling decent livelihoods, especially for women and youth, building 21st century skills, and promoting low carbon development.
By 2027, community and ecosystem in Mongolia are more resilient to climate change with improved capacity for evidence-informed and gender-responsive sustainable natural resource and environmental management and disaster risk reduction.
The UN country team in Mongolia is working together for the people of Mongolia so that by 2027, policymaking and implementation in Mongolia is more gender-responsive, participatory, coherent, evidence-informed, and SDG-aligned. Governance institutions at all levels are transparent and accountable, and people, especially the marginalized groups, have access to justice and rule of law for full realization of human rights.
In co-signing this document, the Government of Mongolia and the United Nations are committed to making Mongolia a prosperous country characterized by inclusive, resilient, and sustainable development, a healthy and safe environment, and a cohesive society based on the rule of law and human rights.
The number of UN agencies working in Mongolia has significantly increased under the new Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework. This reaffirms that Mongolia is acknowledged as a trusted partner of the United Nations.
The Government of Mongolia will closely cooperate with the United Nations to ensure that by 2027, Mongolia will become a country that promotes a green and inclusive economy through resilient and sustainable development, creating a healthy and safe environment based on the rule of law and respect for human rights. The new cooperation framework will accelerate the sustainable development goals in Mongolia through the UN system's collective offer from 23 entities, both resident and non-resident.
This humongous task would only be achieved together in active collaboration and cooperation with all UN agencies together, with the leadership of the government and the partnership of all stakeholders, and achieving the development results which are important for the country to achieve sustainable and inclusive development, leaving no one behind.